Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Game of Thrones Winter's Coming. Today we are taking a look at Commander Kravas, and as you can see, he's attack and CC focused, but when you're looking at his stats overall, you can see he's fairly balanced. He doesn't really have anything that he excels in or is generally like super impressive in. So it's something that can be both good and bad, and we're going to take a look at that right now, why that is. Let's jump right into it. You already know what's going to be focused on, which is training grounds, rebel leaders and PvP fights. And you can see an overview here of his general skills that we're talking about in this video, of course. And also his awakening skill here that you can see, and then of course the basic stats, which we already covered a little bit about before when we started this video. Basically, in training grounds you would probably want to place him at either the back row top or back row bottom, and there's a very good reason for that. First of all, he is an overall balanced commander, which means that he's not decent at tanking, but he's also not decent at attacking. And usually you want to have some kind of unit that's very strong in the back row, in the middle, and also has access or ability to hit all targets only if it's placed in the middle. But the thing with Kravas is that he has an active skill that targets all on the enemy's side and has a 50% chance to stun them. And there is no real distance penalty or anything like that. Basically, he can be placed anywhere in your setup and he will hit all of the enemy units and has a 50% chance to stun them. I believe the stun is 2 or 3 seconds, but the thing about him is that he also has a passive that has a resistance to reduction to all enemies by 25%. Now the question with reduction in this game is that if it applies to defenses or if it applies to CC resistance, for example, or if it's designed for crit resistance. I'm not entirely sure which of them it is, but the thing about Kravas is that he also has a passive every 13 seconds, dealing damage and reducing enemy control resilience of 3 random targets, which means that those 3 targets will take a prolonged CC effect compared to what they usually would. And that kind of leads me to indicate that the resistance reduction to all enemies by 25%, which is a decent skill. I believe it might apply to crit resistance, but like I said, I'm not entirely sure, but that's my guess. Overall, he has some usage in PvP training grounds, and I would probably say if you know how to place him, he's also useful in some kind of CC setup or CC comp maybe, to kind of keep the enemy from attacking, but that's at least how I would use him in training grounds. Now we're moving on to rebel leaders, and rebel leaders is a little bit more difficult because you would probably place them around the same places like you would in training grounds. He is a balanced bow commander, which means that he gets the benefit of having the increased bow attack damage against the rebel leader. But the issue with this is that since he's balanced, it means that he doesn't excel at attack or defense, which means that he can't really tank well. You could maybe at lower level rebel leaders maybe put him to tank, but you will basically only use him in rebel leaders for certain things. One of the things is that he has a curse passive that deals damage to enemies every 10th attack, and the damage is basically a poison damage, and I believe it's a few thousand extra damage. It's not something huge, but it's there if it's something useful. I don't believe that it's really that great. I would probably say if it was for every 3rd attack it would be more worth it, but since it's every 10th attack, it's kind of like difficult to use, not the best, but it's in his kit, so it's one of his strong points that he has basically. The reduction to control resilience as his passive might allow other formations to work, which means that you might be able to use someone that has a bit more higher damage in the front line to tank. If you have some commanders around her that kind of allow to do CC, and that way he might similarly to the training grounds, you can use him as some sort of CC comp maybe against rebel leaders. I'm not entirely sure how great it works, but it's there, and Kravas is also somewhat easy to kind of get the gold if you're a free-to-play player, So he's not a terrible commander, but he's also not an excellent commander. He needs some working and experimenting with to actually fit in. And lastly, for PvP fights, you can overall see that he has some interesting buffs for you for your account. He is a bow commander with focus on bow attack, and as well as fortification construction and defense, which you can see here. Awakening skill that gives bows a 20% chance to attack again, which is kind of important if you are a bow commander or bow user. Then this particular skill is a blessing, because most people can get him to 4-star fairly easily if they have the books, because we got the tokens gifted from the 2nd anniversary event, I think. And that way you basically are gifted the awakening skill, and it was part of the entire making bows stronger update that came over the 2nd year. But at least keep in mind, awakening skill is pretty decent if you're bow focused account. Awakening buffs for, I want to say bow, not bow, but bow attack, fortification attack, and fortification construction. So overall, for offensive purposes in PvP fights, and if you're a bow account, Kravas works actually decently in your comp. For anything else, he's probably not really worth your time. But we're going to take a look at the tavern buffs first, and then we are going to make a conclusion to how he works. So as usual, we are of course taking a final look at the tavern to see his stats, and Kravas is focused around aptitude and finance. His base stats are basically 4 aptitude and 2 finance, but because I have awakened, he has already the extra star on both of those two. And basically he's difficult to use. He's not optimal anyway. I can see him being useful in certain formations for PvP. Reaper leaders, there are probably other better options, but maybe there is some way you can use him to actually get the benefit of the control resilience drop that he has. And other than that, his awakening skill is fairly useful for bowmen, of course, and basically he's overall an okay commander for certain things like reward memories and such like. But this kind of covers him for this time around. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and of course if you want to play the game, the link is down in the description below, and so it is for the Game of Thrones When That's Coming Discord group, and there's also a link for some of the music where I get my music from. So yeah, that should be pretty much it. Take care guys, have fun, and I wish you all a great weekend. Bye bye!